As most of you know now, it's basketball season, particularly college basketball season with March Madness. And the biggest name in March Madness this season is Duke freshman superstar Cooper Flagg. And although Cooper Flagg might not be the most hyped up prospect that has come around in recent memory, or all time for that matter, it got me thinking, who are the most hyped NBA prospects of all time? So I decided to make a video naming the 10 most hyped NBA prospects ever. You'll have to wait and find out to see if Cooper makes the list right after this. Before I begin, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, DraftKings Pick 6. Basketball fans, we've seen some incredible action on the court as we head into the heart of the NBA season. The games are getting even more intense, and with so many high-stakes matchups ahead, you won't want to miss out. Right now, you can get in on the action with my partners at DraftKings Pick 6, a fresh, exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All new customers who play just $5 will get $50 in Pick 6 credits to keep you in the game. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and sign up with code BARRY to claim your offer. This is your shot to level up your NBA experience only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Getting started is simple. Just download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and sign up with code BARRY. Pick at least 2 players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat, like will they score 20 or more points or have 3 or more assists. Lock them in and compete against others for a shot at huge cash prizes. So download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and sign up with code BARRY only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Number 10, Ralph Sampson. This is a little bit of a throwback for you, but Ralph Sampson was somewhat kind of like Wemby before Wemby. He was 7'4", 230 pounds, and he also had an outside shot. Not only was he a highly recruited high school player, but in college, he made the cover of Sports Illustrated 6 times during his 4 years at the University of Virginia, and he would have been the first overall pick had he declared earlier in his junior season in 1982, but he decided to stay for his senior year at Virginia because he was afraid that he was going to have to play for the Clippers had he come out earlier. At Virginia, he was a 3-time National College Player of the Year, 3-time First-Team All-American, ACC All-Player of the Year. Basically, every single individual award you could win, he won it multiple times while putting up great numbers. Unfortunately, his professional career was not as successful, and it wasn't because of a lack of talent. Sampson was a 4-time All-Star and All-Star Game MVP, and he made the All-NBA second team in 1985, while winning Rookie of the Year in 1984, but injuries would take their toll pretty quickly after his 3rd season, during which the Rockets made a finals appearance, losing to the Boston Celtics. Had Sampson never dealt with injuries, there's a good chance that he and Hakeem Olajuwon might have won a championship or 2 together in Houston, but unfortunately, his pro career was not as fruitful as the hype. Number 9, Tim Duncan. Duncan wasn't highly recruited out of high school. In fact, he spent most of his youth growing up as a swimmer, before eventually finding basketball when he got to high school. Well, let's just say that even though he started late, he was a quick learner. He was recruited to Wake Forest by head coach Dave Odom, where he went on to have one of the greatest college careers of all time. Much like Ralph Sampson before him, Duncan stayed all 4 years in college, even though he probably could have been the first overall pick a year or 2 earlier had he declared early, but he made a promise to his late mother that he was going to graduate from college. During his time at Wake Forest, Duncan won the National College Player of the Year in 97. He was a 2-time First-Team All-American, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, and he also led the NCAA in rebounding in 1997, his senior year, while also being the 2-time ACC Player of the Year and 3-time First-Team All-ACC. Teams all around the NBA were tanking for Duncan, most notably the San Antonio Spurs in 1997, and it worked out for them pretty well, as Duncan went on to have one of the greatest careers in NBA history, becoming a 5-time champion, a 3-time Finals MVP, a 2-time NBA MVP, a 15-time All-Star, and making All-NBA First Team 10 times. With the exception of his 2nd season, which was only 50 games, his teams won at least 50 games in every season of his career. Number 8, Andrew Wiggins. Maple Jordan, as he was known as coming out of high school, is a lot more recent, obviously, than Sampson or Duncan, so if you're watching this, you might actually remember the hype that he had coming out of high school and the University of Kansas. The son of former NBA player Mitchell Wiggins and a former Olympic track and field sprinter, it's no surprise that Wiggins was blessed with an insane amount of athleticism. His mixtapes were all the rage, and he won National High School Player of the Year in 2013 while also being a McDonald's All-American and a First-Team Parade All-American. He was even called the next LeBron at points, even though that doesn't really make sense because their styles of play were nothing similar, but either way, he was the guy. And when he got to Kansas for 1 year, he was named the Big 12 Freshman of the Year, First Team All-Big 12, and was a consensus Second Team All-American. And even though his numbers at at Kansas during his 1 year there weren't going to jump off the page. They were still good, and the hype train was still all the way on the track when it came to the NBA draft, during which he was drafted first overall to the Cleveland Cavaliers, but he would never play a game for the Cavaliers, instead being used as trade fodder for the Cavaliers to get Kevin Love to pair with Kyrie Irving and the recently returned LeBron James. Time would tell whether the Cavs made a mistake in trading away Wiggins, and it looks like they were wise, as they went on to win a championship with Kevin Love and Kyrie and LeBron. While Wiggins has had a up and down career, he never became a great player, and he certainly never lived up to the insane amounts of hype that came with being called the next LeBron or the next great player like he was. But he has had a respectable career. Currently in his 11th year in the NBA, he did win Rookie of the Year, he did make an All-Star team, and he did win an NBA championship in 2022 with the Warriors, playing a big role as a role player on that team. But unfortunately, he's never really developed into anything more than a high-volume scorer and will never be considered a great player, known for not having the greatest work ethic or consistency. Number 7, Greg Oden. Oden was the first overall recruit in the first class that was not allowed to go straight out of high school to the NBA, or else he certainly would have done that. His high school career was unbelievably decorated. He won the Mr. Basketball for USA, the Naismith Prep Player of the Year in 2006. He was the 2-time Gatorade National Player of the Year in high school, as well as a McDonald's All-American in 2006. He was extremely coveted, as you might imagine, and he had decided to attend Ohio State. But unfortunately, his freshman year at Ohio State got off to a slow start because of an injury, which would be a bad omen for him. But he would go on to dominate college in his only season there, becoming a second-team All-American and a first-team All-Big Ten, drawing comparisons to all-time great big men like Bill Russell and David Robinson for his defensive prowess. Going into the 2007 draft, the discussion was between him and skinny Texas forward Kevin Durant, and had the draft been held nowadays, Durant might have been picked first overall, despite all of Oden's hype. But back then, in 2007, the thought was you still build through big men, which Oden was. But unfortunately, you all know the story of Greg Oden. He was unbelievably injury-prone, and his NBA career was never able to get off the ground, not because of a lack of talent, but because of his aforementioned injuries. He missed 4 entire seasons due to injuries, most of another with another injury. All in all, he appeared in just 82 games for the Portland Trail Blazers and 105 games overall in the NBA after a short stint with the Miami Heat in 2014. Again, we'll never know whether or not he would have gone on to become an all-time great player had he stayed healthy, or even if he would have become better than Kevin Durant. I have my doubts on that, but I believe he could have been a Dwight Howard-esque Hall of Fame player had he stayed healthy. Unfortunately, it was not to be. Number 6, Zion Williamson. For me personally, Zion was one of the best college basketball players I've ever seen. But his greatness started before college. He was a McDonald's All-American and South Carolina's Mr. Basketball in high school, as well as being a 5-star recruit, and obviously one of the best recruits in the country. But he was a guy who, while his high school hype was immense, his college performance at Duke in his 1 year there took it to another level. He was the National College Player of the Year, he was a consensus first-team All-American, and basically every award you could win, he won at Duke, thanks to his freakish athleticism and muscular build. A lot of people, including me, were thinking that he could go on to become one of the greatest basketball players ever, and thus far in his NBA career, it's been a lot of a mixed bag. He's been in the NBA for 6 seasons now, but he's appeared in just 214 games. But the catch-22 with Zion is that when he does play, he has lived up to the hype, but the problem is he just hasn't been able to stay on the court. Whether it's weight-related or injury-related or whatever, it always seems like there's something that's stopping Zion from becoming the dominant, all-time great player that he has the talent to be. It's hard to believe now that it's already been 6 years since he left Duke, and he is still yet to play in a playoff game. So while individually he might have shown that the hype was not unwarranted, the Pelicans have obviously not become as successful as they thought they would when they got such generational talent. But still, nobody can deny that he was one of the most hyped prospects of all time. I just hope that he's able to get it on the right track, because the talent is still there. Number 5, Shaquille O'Neal. Now we're starting to get somewhere. Shaq is one of the greatest players of all time. We all know this because of his NBA career and all of his NBA accomplishments, but he's also, unsurprisingly, a great high school player and a dominant player at LSU. He was a first-team parade All-American in high school, and he was recruited by Dale Brown to go to LSU, where he stayed for 3 years, and after a good, not great freshman season, he exploded onto the scene his final 2 seasons. He was the Associated Press Player of the Year in 1991. He was 2-time consensus consensus first-team All-American in 91 and 92. He led the NCAA in rebounding and blocks in different years. He was essentially a sure thing, and that's why teams were scrambling to try and get him in 1992 when he declared, and the Orlando Magic were the lucky winners. Even though he would go on to only play 4 seasons in Orlando, he put up monster numbers there and got them to a finals along with Penny Hardaway. Like I said, we all know what Shaq did. 4-time NBA champion, he was a 3-time finals MVP, winning 3 in a row. He was an MVP in 2000. He made 15 All-Star games and was first-team All-NBA 8 different times. He finished with over 28,000 career points. And although there are some people who say he could have been even better than he was, he is still comfortably one of the 10 to 15 best basketball players of all time and was absolutely worth the hype that he got. Number 4, Patrick Ewing. Although Shaq would go on to become a better NBA player than Patrick Ewing, he was not more hyped than Patrick Ewing despite all the hype that he got. Patrick Ewing, from his days in high school, was highly sought after. He was the National High School Player of the Year in 1981, and he was a 2-time first-team parade All-American, and he went on to play for John Thompson at Georgetown, where he stayed for all 4 seasons, and that's how you know he was a product of his time, because nowadays he would have been a one and done, or he would have gone overseas or whatever. He would not have stayed in college 4 years coming up nowadays, is my point. And his 4 seasons at Georgetown made him one of the greatest college basketball players of all time. He was an NCAA champion in 1984. He was the Final Four most outstanding player in 1984. He appeared in 3 national championship games overall in 4 seasons at Georgetown. He was a 3-time consensus first-team All-American and won Big East Defensive Player of the Year all 4 years he was in college. The real reason, though, that Ewing gets this high is that even to this day, there are still people that believe that the very first NBA draft lottery was rigged for the New York Knicks for Ewing to get there. That's how much people wanted him. He was considered to be the next Bill Russell, or a guy that you could win championships with, which ironically is really the only thing that he never achieved in his pro career. He went on to score almost 25,000 points. He was an 11-time All-Star, 1 Rookie of the Year, and his Knicks teams were consistently playoff contenders, but they were never able to get over the hump and win a championship. And although Ewing isn't one of the 5 or 10 best players ever, like his hype might have said coming out of college, he still is one of the 50 or so best players ever, so it's hard to say he's much of a disappointment. Number 3, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, also known as Lou Alcindor, was the first mega recruit this side of possibly Wilt Chamberlain. He was a 2-time Mr. Basketball USA, 3-time first-team parade All-American at Power Memorial, where he won 3 state championships and had a 71-game winning streak, and his dominance individually and team-wise continued when he got to UCLA. Freshmen were still not allowed to play on varsity for whatever reason when Alcindor appeared on UCLA's campus in 1965, but he made up for it in his 3 years that he was allowed to play. In his 3 years, the Bruins won 3 championships, and Alcindor was named the Final Four most outstanding player 3 times, while also being a consensus first-team All-American all 3 years, and the National College Player of the Year all 3 years. This despite another rule by the NCAA that banned dunks to try and make him less dominant. Needless to say, it didn't work. And needless to say that when he was finally draft eligible in 1969, he was going to be first overall, and that's where he went to the Milwaukee Bucks. And the rest is really history. We all know now he is one of the 4 or 5 best players of all time at worst. He's a 6-time champion, a 2-time Finals MVP, a 6-time MVP, a 19-time NBA All-Star, a 10-time All-NBA first-team member, and he was the all-time leading scorer for a very long time before LeBron James broke that mark recently. He finished his pro career with over 38,000 points, 17,000 rebounds, and nearly 6,000 assists. Was he worth the hype? You bet your sweet ass he was. Number 2, Victor Wembanyama. Wembanyama is easily the most hyped draft prospect over the last 15 to 20 years, and a large part of that is because we've never really seen a guy with his measurables and coordination all packed into one player. At 7'3", 240 pounds, he can actually shoot the ball, and well, you know what he can do. I don't have to tell you. Unlike a lot of other players on this list, his pre-NBA stats weren't necessarily great, but that didn't stop people from knowing about him years in advance before his actual draft year, which came in 2023. That doesn't mean he still didn't have some accolades. He was named the French Player of the Year, the Pro A Most Valuable Player, and was a 3-time Pro A Best Young Player award winner before being drafted first overall by the Spurs in 2023. And in his first 2 seasons, he's already been named to the All-Defensive First Team. He won Rookie of the Year, he led the league in blocks, and was named an All-Star for the first time this season before his career was halted by blood clots, which hopefully he's able to overcome. Thus far in his short career, it appears like he's going to live up to the hype if he's able to stay healthy, of course. Offensively, he still has a little ways to go, but again, if he's able to stay healthy, he looks like he's going to be one of the greatest players of all time, which is what you'd expect from a player with his amount of hype. And number one, no surprise, LeBron James. LeBron James is the most hyped NBA prospect of all time, and he might be the most hyped up amateur prospect in any sport ever. He was a two-time National High School Player of the Year, McDonald's All-American Game MVP, a two-time first-team All-American, a one-time second-team All-American, and a three-time Ohio Mr. Basketball winner. Basically, this guy was on the map from the time he was 16 years old, when he first appeared on the cover of Sports Illustrated. In his 4 years of high school, he won 3 state championships while putting up unbelievably monster numbers, as you might expect. I mean, I really don't have to tell you anything or have anything to say that you don't already know. While being from Ohio, it was a little bit shady, possibly, that the Cleveland-based Cavaliers won the lottery the year that LeBron was coming out, and the rest is history, and is actually still being made somehow 22 years later. While there are still debates about whether he's the best basketball player of all time, there are no debates that he is one of the best basketball players of all time, and the biggest superstar of his generation, who, as of this video, is still playing at a remarkably high level. I think even the biggest LeBron haters will have to admit that this is a list that he's number one on.